Alright, I should probably get going, I tell my two friends, Nicole and John. Ugh, your stupid 8 p.m. curfew? John asks me. Yep, my parents are really strict about it for some reason. Well, I guess we have tomorrow, Nicole says. Yeah, I say. I get on my bike, wave to the two, and head off. I get home at 8 sharp, try to avoid my mom as I walk to my room, and settle in. I didn't know if it was trust issues or if my parents were just weird, but it annoyed me to no end that despite being 16 and all of my friends were able to stay out past midnight, I was stuck in my house by 8 and forced to be asleep by 10. It had been like this since I was 13, and 3 years later they still never allow me to stay up any longer, even on weekends. It was something I had protested many times, but each time only ended in strict punishments. My mom opened the door as I was looking through my phone. You know, instead of entirely avoiding me and being angry all the time, you could ask why we do this. I sighed, looking at her. I don't know how, but I never thought to ask why this was a thing. I guess I had just learned over the last couple years to not question the rules. It had just occurred to me that I could, but my mindset was like that for a long time. Well then why? Everyone around me is staying up past midnight, and you guys never even think about letting me stay up with them. And for what? Is it trust? No, my mom replied calmly. Do you still think I'm 10? Again, no, my mom tells me. Something told me that she had been expecting everything I had just asked. I waited for more. Our family line has never reacted to staying up well. I don't know why. I think for a couple of seconds. What happens? We just tend to get sick. It's been too long since the last time I stayed out long enough to remember what happens. But it's not good. Bullshit. This is utter fucking bullshit, I think to myself. Is that even a thing? I ask. Well, it apparently is. It's not like we've ever gone to anyone about it. Once we figured out that staying up makes us sick, we were satisfied. All we had to do was not stay up much past 10 and we'd be fine. Weird. Okay. Alright, well, now you know, she said happily to me. Love you. Yeah, love you too, I said, and of course I did. But everything she just said was bullshit. I even went to the internet and searched for about an hour on what kind of disease or disorder does this, but there was nothing out there. I asked various friends and they kept telling me that it wasn't a thing. The most I found is that maybe our bloodline produces so many sleep chemicals at night that it makes us sick. But that also sounded like absolute garbage. My mom had intentionally asked me to ask her why, and she gave me a lie in return. What was the reason for this? To keep me from being angry? To try and give me a false satisfaction of knowing why they do this to me? Well, it didn't work either way. Now I wanted real answers, a lot more than before. I reached out to Nicole and John, and over the course of the night, we had developed a plan to get me out of the house right after 10 tomorrow. I don't know why, but I was excited. I was finally going to, after years of listening, protest my parents in the best way possible, by breaking the rule worse than I ever had before, and my parents would never know. The next day, I did the usual thing. I talked to my friends, messed around on my phone, messed around with my dog, etc. Nothing too special. I was constantly anxious throughout all of it, and my parents saw that, but they never knew why, nor did they ask me. Which was fortunate, because I had no lies to tell them if they did. The only thing that wasn't normal for me was that I stayed home for most of the day. Usually, I'd go out with my friends at around 5 and be back by 8, but this time it was different. I was in my room when my mom knocked on my door. "You're going to bed now?" she asked. "Yeah," I respond. "I'm surprised you didn't go anywhere today. I just kinda wanted to chill today." "Okay, good night," I tell her. I listened carefully, making sure I heard the door to her room close. I waited about 20 minutes and then I carefully walked to the door, opening and closing it as quietly as I could. And that was all I needed. At my house, it's pretty hard to hear anything from outside, so I was pretty safe. The only thing that could be a potential threat is the windows from the kitchen, which is what John and Nicole were there for. "Hey!" I said excitedly. "Hello," Nicole said happily. "You think you're in the clear?" she asks. "Yeah, I should be. We should probably leave quickly though, just so they don't see us through the windows," I say. "Alright, well, let's go," John exclaimed. He's the only person here who has a car, which we got into and drove off. From the moment I had left the house, there was this weird sense of guilt or dread, but I didn't pay attention to it at all, not at first. At the same time, I was excited. My parents have never checked to make sure I was in bed, so I knew I'd be able to get away with staying up past 12. And besides that, I had never done something like this in my life. It was invigorating. We made our way over to the same park we usually go to. A nice, peaceful place with a couple benches, a fountain, and a huge forest on one side. There were various gravel trails that led to various places. One that went into the forest, that we had no intention on going on at night, along with a bunch of other trails that led to other places. We hung out, talked, messed around on our phones, and a bunch of other random things. "I wish I could do this every night," I said to Nicole as I sat on the bench beside her. John had been doing something else completely random, so as usual we were left alone. "Yeah, it's pretty weird at night. No one is ever driving by. It's all just silent," Nicole explained. "That is a real unnerving part of being out here," I say. "You sort of get used to it after a bit. Only sort of," she says. "It's kind of funny. This is the only place John and I are willing to be if we're gonna be outside this late." I can't blame you. I sort of find comfort in knowing the place as well as I do. Yeah, it was right here that the same weird dread feeling came back to me. At this time, it was a lot stronger. I tried to ignore it, but it was like an intrusive thought. "Go back, something isn't right, this isn't okay. You're not safe out here." "I'm getting really uncomfortable for some reason," I say to Nicole. "What do you mean?" I don't know, it's this dread feeling." Is it you feeling bad you came out here right now?" "That's what I thought it was. I brushed it off as guilt, but it's definitely not that. I'm almost scared for some reason." "What about?" "I have no idea." I was cut off by a large snap. Being already scared, I shot up, looking in the direction the loud noise came from. It was in the forest. I instinctively took a small step back. "Hey," Nicole said to me. "That's probably just John." I remember that he went off somewhere but didn't pay attention to where. I almost felt a little better before I heard his hello behind us. "Something just snapped in the forest, sounded like a branch too big for anyone to break," I say to him. "Yeah, I swore I heard something in this direction." He's a little spooked about it. Says he was suddenly creeped about something he couldn't put his finger on, Nicole said. "I am a little interested in what that was though," I say, more lying than not. Something was making me terrified. I really look into the forest, at every detail, scanning over the entire front of it. It didn't take me long to notice two purple eyes staring back at me. It all hit me at once. Immediately after I noticed the eyes, I noticed the big, bulky shape behind them moving slowly towards us. Or me. A big thump radiated throughout the forest and I knew by instinct that it was a gigantic foot. I take a step back, as fear I had never felt in my life rushed over me. My brain created an image of whatever it was, even though I couldn't see it properly in the darkness that blanketed it, almost like my brain was telling me what it looked like. And as I saw it slowly, menacingly making its way forward, the lights around us, which were supposed to have stopped working years ago, now flickered. I did not like the picture my mind was drawing at all, or the name that picture gave me. The Ravager. This name instantly connected to whatever was walking in front of me, and instinctual fear I couldn't understand made me back away. The thing immediately responded to my sudden movement with a fast stomp forward before going completely still, almost waiting for me to do something more. Amidst the complete silence of the night, it made a slow, low, yet loud growling noise as it stared into my eyes that I could never put in words. I could feel the vibrations from the sound in my chest, almost like when a speaker is playing overly loud music with a crazy amount of bass. I was scared out of my mind when I felt something grab my hand, only to realize it was Nicole. I had noticed only now that this thing had me in a weird state of mind where nothing other than the Ravager and I were in focus. "Come on," she said. Immediately I sprinted at the sidewalk. A loud roar bellowed through the night as I ran. Loud stomps following, paired with the ground shaking as if there was an earthquake. I was running harder than I ever knew I could, and at the same time making sure my friends were safe. But within seconds, the ancient monster, as my brain told me, was behind us. The shaking knocked all of us to the ground, and I turned around to see. Every light around us turned on. The creature was huge and bulky, towering above us. Black skin was covered by brown fur. It walked on all fours. 2 large curving horns were on either side of its head, which was vaguely cubesque, although it was slightly more slim. 2 unmoving, bright and glowing purple eyes were locked on my face. Its nose extended down to the bottom half of its face, hanging off by a bit. Little pads were on the top part of his legs, making them unlevel with the body. Things went through my mind as I looked at it in fear, in some really weird language. "Exitium per noctem, tuam esse sit sum, tua est sanguine suo, nocte vastata persequitur, de te autem nescit ille." You should never have left in the night. That's all I needed to know exactly what was happening. Immediately after this, he rose on his hind legs for a couple seconds before disappearing. The lights went out at the same exact time. We all got up and ran as fast as we could to John's car. They brought me back to my house and then went home themselves. Over the drive I saw it observing us in random places. At one point it chased our car. At another, it was simply staring at us from a distance as we sped by. It's been a couple of days since. My parents never caught me coming back in. I'm still really shaken up by whatever happened there, despite having talked to my friends about it more than once. I did tell them that whatever happened was connected to me, but they still don't want to stay out like that again, which I can't blame them for. But one thing I do know is the real reason my parents are so strict about this. I know why my mom lied to me. I'm not mad at her anymore. Our family line has either been cursed by something or is part of something that I don't know if any of us truly understands. It's haunted by a creature older and stronger than anything in your scariest nightmares. An entity capable of more than we want to find out. What my mom told me was simply a cover-up for something much harder to believe unless you see it yourself, which they never intended on letting me do. I could have died that night. I think even as I write this, I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact. I still have no clue why it didn't take me in the few moments it had while I was on the ground. But I'm absolutely sure that it would be less forgiving if it were to find me again. I'm still trying to understand what those thoughts really meant. I somehow know how to spell them, seeing as I typed them in the story earlier, but I had no idea what any of those phrases were actually saying, only a general idea of what it could mean. I'll let you guys know somehow if I can figure that out. Otherwise, I'll post more about my situation if I need to, but I doubt I will. I'm never breaking that rule again. Hopefully that's enough.